Hey, I'm Taylor, a business consultant and strategist, and I'm here to teach you that you can scale your business sustainably. This is Simply Business, your playbook for structure, clarity, and strategy that grows your business without costing your lifestyle. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of Simply Business. I'm so happy to have you here again, and I was just saying to Jayme off air, I always say I'm so excited, but I am genuinely so excited for this episode. I love guest episodes and just being able to pick people's brains, and the fact that I just get to do it for a podcast and then you guys get to tune in. I'm very excited. But Jayme, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You're like, we're actually just excited. Okay?
I'm riveted to be here.
I love it. Change up the adjectives. Yeah. For anyone that doesn't know Jayme, she has, when did you launch your business? Has it been the past year?
A year and a half.
Year and a half.
Yeah, year and a few months.
Yeah, amazing. Her own creative marketing business, which we're going to go into. And you've also been in the marketing team for Rise and Conquer with Georgie Stevenson that's been a few years now, hasn't it?
6 years now.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Crazy.
That is wild.
I know.
Take us back, because I know that you actually moved up here for that role. So talk me through what's been the journey to get you there and to get hired in that position.
Okay. I'll take you back to the start. So I was in uni.
Yeah.
And I basically was doing freelance social media kind of on the side during uni, as everyone does.
Yeah.
And then I got a full-time job in corporate marketing at a business coaching firm.
Yeah.
And I did that for about a year, which was very different to what I do now. It was very much like we were kind of supporting trade businesses. So I was on the marketing team there, learned a lot. That was amazing. And then one day I saw Georgie post on her story and she was looking for a podcast manager. And it was only part-time at the time. Well, she said, I think it was 20 hours. And I saw it and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to apply. That would be such a cool experience. I love the podcasting space. And at that time, Rise and Conquer pretty much was just a podcast. I think we had done one round of the project, our OG manifestation course. So I applied. I remember I sent in this little video of myself sitting in my room being introducing myself. And she said that was why I got the position, actually, because she's like, I loved the way that you applied and kind of put the video in there. And then from there, I never did part-time. It was basically straight into full-time role. I was managing the podcast and helping with marketing for the project and running all the socials and all the podcast management and everything like that. It was kind of a bit of a mixed bag of a job. And then from there, Georgie kind of wanted to take Rise and Conquer to the next level. So she called me and was like, I would love you to be the lead in the business, kind of overseeing the team, overseeing logistics, marketing, basically being her 2IC. Yeah. And I was like, this is such a cool opportunity. So I think within 2 weeks, I decided that I was going to move up from Melbourne, which was really crazy. Everyone at the time didn't really understand it. I had a partner at home and everything. And I was just like, you know what, this is such a cool opportunity for me to go and advance in my career. So I moved up here 3 and a bit years ago, and have been, managing being the band. Let me try that.
No, the glitches all the time.
Being the marketing and brand manager there, kind of overseeing the team and running all the business operations.
My God, I love it. I love it. And something we were just briefly touching on before we started recording was, how many people almost go right into running their business.
Yeah.
And I was the exact same, freelancing whilst I could at uni. And I think there's so much benefit in that. But especially now that you have launched your business and you're doing that along with working in Rise and Conquer, how's that impacted how that you've been able to actually then grow and scale your business, actually just throwing yourself in the deep end in the, not really corporate, but let's just call it corporate, the 9 to 5, and actually progressing your career in that way?
Well, I think for me, so as I was saying to you off air, I knew that I was going to have a business. I actually bought the business name 5 years ago, but I knew that I wanted to really dive into learning and just getting as much knowledge as I possibly could. And especially working for someone like Georgie, she's an incredible businesswoman. She has so much happening. Her brain is amazing. And I knew the opportunity that I was going to have working alongside her and basically running a business at that scale as well. I think I have just learned so much. It hasn't been it hasn't been kind of in the small business space because it's a bigger company. It's got a lot of eyes on it. So I knew how much I would learn, and I guess, evolve in that role. And now I feel like I have so much to give to my clients because I really have lived in that industry and worked in that industry for so long and learned a lot along the way. And I think I progressed quite quickly in Rise and Conquer as well because we started, just it being me and Georgie and now we kind of have a team and contractors and everything. So I think, the rate in which I evolved there was so powerful for me to then feel really confident in owning my business and supporting my clients and being able to bring my lived experience into that.
Yeah. I think it's so cool. I was having a meeting with Amelia yesterday and we're even saying, she was listening to one of the podcast episodes I recorded and we're just like, should we go dabble? Like sometimes I even think like, should I just go dabble in a job again? Because I think there is so much in that you can just learn. And like you're saying, working alongside someone like Georgie and just being able to collaborate, have colleagues and learn from people as well. It's such an underrated skill where so many people are like, I just want to go to working for myself and having the freedom. But even like from a credibility standpoint, like that's why your clients trust you is because you actually have that lived experience, like you were saying, you can't get on a piece of paper.
Yeah. And I think also for me, when I first left uni, I don't know if you had this same experience, but at uni I think my uni at that time wasn't really up to date I didn't even have a social media class when I was at uni. Like it was all based off journalism and printed media and all that. And when I got out into the industry, I felt like I didn't know anything because uni was so dated. So I think I really knew that in order to be able to support my clients and give them that strategy, I needed to become the product that I wanted to sell and really have the brain in which I knew was going to help people, not kind of just learn with them, but learn before them and then give them that expertise. So I think that was kind of my strategy in going into the industry. And I think there's a lot of people that do want to have that freedom and that business lifestyle, but I think also focusing on what you're actually selling and the experience you're giving your clients is so important and so underrated.
Yeah, I love that. I'd love to know then, being that you've worked in Rise and Conquer for so many years and now you've grown it massively as well, like the podcast and then the courses and all of the moving pieces, what have been, some of the biggest takeaways, some of the biggest things that you guys have implemented from a marketing strategy perspective or even operations as well that's allowed you guys to grow the podcast so massively?
Well, I think what we have always focused on first is being a community-led brand. I think that's why Rise and Conquer has had so much success because we didn't focus on growing the brand. We focused on growing the community and how we were really connecting with the community. And obviously being a podcast, I'm sure you would know how engaged that community becomes from it because you're really giving them so much value. And we have always focused on providing value first and then the sale second. So it's not just how can we, generate revenue here. It's how can we provide value and really give the audience something that is going to be really valuable for them. So I think that was the biggest thing that we focused on. And the second was the nurture journey. I think there's such a missed gap in the marketing space at the moment where people aren't really focusing on where their customers are coming in and where they're going to, like depending on whether that's nurturing them before the sale or nurturing them after the sale and where they're moving to in your business and creating a really nice customer experience. So I think those have been two of the biggest things that we've focused on and obviously led heavily with being a founder-led brand as well. Georgie's got such an amazing community and she's really done an amazing job at finding her people on the internet and creating a space for them that I guess they're not really getting that experience anywhere else as well. So really finding out what we were best at and then leaning into that as well.
Yeah. And something I've been having so many conversations with everyone in like different industries and in different kind of shapes and sizes has been around building community first and selling second.
100%.
And I was saying to Christina when I was recording earlier, because we were talking about like the coaching industry and like the pocket of what it was a few years ago, and it was actually around like selling first, and it was like sell, but it was like, where are we actually bringing these people in? Is there actually any value? And something I noticed for myself, I started a podcast just because I wanted to. Business coach at the time was like, love that. You don't need to. It's a waste of money and time and da-da-da. So I think I did 12 episodes and then stopped, and then I decided to bring it back. And like the correlation with sales then, it was so interesting. That wasn't the reason that I brought it back, but looking at the data after the fact, there is so much in just like
100%.
providing value and actually building that community as well. Something you said was like the after the sale process, which I feel like is almost a missed piece. And even for myself, I'm just like, true.
Yeah.
Right? What are some things that you implement, whether it be with clients or you've done in Rise and Conquer, to actually make sure that post-purchase that they are super nurtured throughout the process and it hasn't just been like sale, like ta-ta?
Yeah. Well, I think that is one of the biggest things that people miss. And, we know that people who are already spending money in your business are actually better getting revenue off them than a brand new customer, because it's just a better strategy for your business. So I think if you really focus, and I've seen you speak about this on your socials, if you really focus on client experience or customer experience, making sure that they have a really good time. Because I think also in the coaching space, like we're kind of coaching large scale with courses, it would be so easy to make the sale and then be like, all right, you go and have fun, figure out the course. But how you're keeping them engaged, where they're actually going to after, because especially if you're in the self-development space or any space for that matter, where your customer actually goes to after that purchase, and how you create funnels in the back end and systems in the back end where they have a nurtured journey, and you're basing your marketing off where the customer is, not just like blanket on your whole audience. You will actually find so much like more conversions with that, because you're basing it off where they are. So if you can target them with, messaging, flows, emails for exactly where they're at in their journey, they see that and they're like, oh my gosh, you're speaking right to me. Like, this is made for me. I want to go and explore this. And you're likely to get a conversion. Whereas if you send out messaging to your entire audience or your entire segment, and it's kind of just general, it's not really going to land for anyone. So I think if you can really set up that nurtured experience in the back end and make sure that your customers are getting marketing based off where they are, it's just going to be way better for them and for you.
Yeah, I love it. And you obviously mentioned within that then there's like email marketing. So what would you say for someone, say they're listening to this, maybe they're in like, the kind of startup years, they've got customers, things are working, but they want to actually take their business, I hate the saying, but like to the next level, for lack of a better word.
Everyone wants that. It's fine.
They're wanting to really grow and scale and even take their marketing more seriously. So maybe they have been posting on Instagram, they might dabble in email marketing, might dabble in a podcast. What would you kind of recommend, being someone that now you obviously work directly with clients and then also having that experience, are like the non-negotiables when we're kind of looking at that overall marketing funnel? And again, that's such a loaded question, because it could apply differently to different industries and things like that. But yeah, what would you recommend to consider for different platforms and what that journey would look like?
So I think what I always take my clients through is making sure that they understand where each platform sits in the funnel and not trying to use every single platform in the same way. So obviously your social media is going to be really based off awareness and more middle of funnel, and most of your conversions should really be sitting in paid and email. So then you're going to look at, say you were rolling out content across those channels, how you're getting people from your social media using very top of funnel awareness content. So when I say that, I mean if someone was scrolling on the feed and they had no idea who you were, they're still going to be interested in what you're saying. Then how you're taking that customer from socials onto your email list, or getting them retargeted with ads, depending if you're kind of at the place where you have budget to put behind paid, and then nurturing them in the back end and making sure that, say they've downloaded a lead magnet on socials and then they've gone into your email funnel, you're introducing who you are, you're providing value, you're kind of introducing the brand, the values, and then after all of that happened, you're inviting them to buy. So you're not just going straight from they've found you and then you're like, hey, do you want to buy off me? You've actually taken them on a nurtured journey, and then they're at the point where they're ready to convert. So just making sure you kind of understand where everything in your marketing ecosystem sits, and then creating content and messaging relative to that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Love. And this is something as well. Oh, so sorry. Phone.
That's right.
There we go. This is something as well that I was auditing with a client recently, because she's been following like a lot of the templates and things like that online of, it's like this template, it's going to go viral, and then ManyChat automation. And she's like, why aren't my conversions sitting there? And it's like she's got a well-optimized sales page. I'm like, because there's nothing that's like actually in that nurturing. So it's like you can have the best top of funnel, you can be funneling people through, but if they don't trust you, if they don't even see you speaking face to camera, they can't go listen to a podcast, download a lead magnet, there's going to be that disconnect. And then it's like, hey, pay over $100 for this thing. And it's like there is that disconnect. So I love that of just like actually having the journey. And it takes longer to build, but it's so much more sustainable in the long term.
Well, I think that marketing is all about trust, and trust is the currency of conversion. And I always say that it's basically like dating. You're not going to go up to some random on the street and be like, hey, do you want to kiss me?
Yeah.
You're going to maybe like ask for their number and then catch up with them, have a few dates, get to know them, and then maybe you'll ask them to be your partner or ask them for a kiss or whatever. And it's really like marketing is essentially like that. You have to make sure that you're warming them up, getting them to trust you, making sure they understand who you are, how you can provide value for them, and then asking for the sale. Otherwise, you do just get people being like, you're a weirdo.
Yeah,
Leave me alone.
Please don't kiss me.
Yeah.
With that as well, I think it's really easy to get caught in, I know that this type of content is going to go viral, get the visibility. But I think, again, too, there can also be a disconnect of if you're doing the wrong top of funnel content, it's not going to convert, right?
Yes, 100%.
So talk me through that around, mistakes that maybe people make, or if it's kind of just like taking a trend but not really applying it to understanding who your ideal client is. Yeah, what are some things, some do's and don'ts with top of funnel specifically?
I love this topic. I actually had a client recently who her main focus was on building her Instagram up. She kind of just launched her business at the end of last year and has been working with me ever since. And we were really focusing on top of funnel content, but in the way that it was going to land. And she actually had a few posts in 1 week go viral to 1.5 million views, I think. And she, I think, tripled her following in 1 week. And it was amazing though, because her top of funnel content was very much aligned to what she was offering for sale. So then it converted. We had the system set up. We had the funnel set up. That viral post was leading into a lead magnet, which was then going into a nurture flow, which then she got sales from all over the world from it. So I think one of the biggest things that people miss is they just focus on going viral and they don't focus on where they're actually taking that virality. So there's no point having all these eyes on your brand if those eyes aren't really converting into sales, because at the end of the day, money is what is going to keep your business going. So I think the biggest thing to focus on is who are the people that are actually interested in my product, and starting there, and always starting with your ideal buyers, where they currently are and where they want to end up, and really then creating content around that current state or that desired state, and making sure that the virality is based off that, not just based off going viral and then it's not correlating for them to have a step to go to next. So I think, if you can kind of start there and start at the foundation and then work backwards, rather than just thinking, what can I post to go viral, and making sure you actually have the system set up. So ManyChat set up with a lead magnet, or ManyChat set up with a direct link to buy, then you're making sure that virality is actually worth it.
I think as well, like I know even my own mindset in the past was, okay, if it's top of funnel, you almost want it to like, you're casting a bigger net, right? So you almost want it to capture more people and then funnel them down. But what I found is the more specific I've actually still gotten, you're still casting a big net, but it's like actually people that want to purchase from you. And I think a lot of the time when I'll like audit marketing strategies for clients, and it's like, who's your ideal audience? And it's like a female in her 20s that wants to lose weight. And it's like, it's still just not specific enough at all. And I think that's a huge piece of what you're saying, of just like getting really clear on what is she experiencing, and then where specifically does she want to be, because that looks very different in my health and fitness journey right now to yours. So
100%.
Something like the word postpartum is probably going to make me now click, because I'm like, oh, that's the season I'm going into. Where for you, you'd be like, scroll.
Yeah, I'd be like, okay, next.
Literally. So then we move them to more like that middle of funnel content, and really building that credibility, connection, trust. What are some things that you'd recommend to anyone listening that they should have implemented? Because obviously this is also going to be the piece too where we could potentially take them off that, like the Instagram platform, get them downloading a lead magnet and whatnot. Talk me through the middle of funnel.
So middle of funnel, I think as you said, you really need to focus on trust and authority, and making sure that you're providing value in a way that the customer understands. I think what people kind of get wrong here is they use industry language to try and sound really fancy, but it completely goes over their consumer's head. So I think when you're thinking about middle of funnel, you're really going back to that ideal buyer. what they're currently experiencing, and almost, I guess, in a way, making them problem aware, not problem solve. So you're providing value in a way that gets them thinking and wants them to know more. So say you have a lead magnet set up, that lead magnet should really be taking an ideal buyer, because when you think of it, the person that is your ideal buyer only really knows what they're currently experiencing. They don't know what's going to fix it, or they probably would have done it already. So you're using language in that middle of funnel that's really speaking to their problems, where they want to be, and getting them, I guess, more problem aware so that your product or service can be the solution to that problem.
So sorry, but I'm going to quickly interrupt this podcast episode to quickly chat about the Business Accelerator. If you've been enjoying the podcast content or what I'm posting on social media and you want to work closely together with me and my team, the Accelerator is going to be the best space for you to do so. Think of the Accelerator like a business development hub where you have access to me and our resident consultants, so you can be super supported in every area of your business, whether it be operations, client experience, finance, or marketing. We then support you with implementation, so no more courses of just the how-tos, whilst you also get that inside of the Accelerator. It's all about us actually supporting you as you implement. You get fortnightly check-ins where you submit your data around your revenue, your marketing, and how things are actually performing, so we can recommend adjustments for you on a fortnightly basis. You have access to advisory calls where you can have access to me and the other resident consultants to ask questions, get feedback, and get the support you need as you're implementing. This isn't going to be something that adds something more to your plate as a busy founder. It's going to be something that actually takes away from it, so you feel supported as a founder. You can find out more about the Accelerator on our website. We'll link everything you need in the show notes, or feel free to just DM me on Instagram if you want to find out more and see if it's going to be the best space for you. Let's get back to the show.
So I think in middle of funnel, it's really about speaking to that and providing value on that, but then sending them somewhere else. So they're not just kind of seeing the post, saving it, and then moving on with their day. They're seeing the post, getting curious, being like, I think that is relative to me. I'm currently experiencing that. That's where I want to be. What do you have for me? And then your lead magnet is providing somewhat of a solution to that.
I would love to know what you feel like is almost a bit of a general rule of thumb for lead magnets, because I think a lot of the time too, people create these like lead magnets and it's like literally a whole fucking novel.
Oh, yes.
Do you know what I mean? Or it's like so, there's so many different angles that they're hitting, and it's like you could have 17 lead magnets if you wanted to, and they can all be different, like messaging, like the different flows and things like that. So yeah, what's the blueprint to a good lead magnet?
Okay, so the first and biggest one is when you're thinking about your consumers, it's almost like peeling back an onion. Like there's so many layers that you have to get through before they're ready to buy. And if I just have discovered you and you're wanting me to read through a 70-page ebook, I'm going to be like, no, I'm not giving you that much of my time. Or if you're doing a 10-part audio series, I'm not giving you that much time. So this is like essentially the first barrier that they want to overcome before you're getting them further down towards conversion. So keeping your lead magnet as simple as possible, and also in a way that they can actually implement it. So for example, one of my lead magnets is a content calendar that people can use to kind of get them in the habit of having a system and having a structure. And the reason that I did something like that was it's so simple to use, and it's providing value in a way that they're going to constantly be going back to that and being like, oh, I got this content calendar from Jayme. And then the more that they use it, the more familiar they get with me, the more value they feel is there. And then the more likely they are to kind of carry on further in their journey with me. So I think if you can create something that's simple and easy to implement so that that person is getting value, because what you don't want with lead magnets is them downloading something that they then never use again, and you're kind of just like a fleeting thought. I think what people
it's like if they don't read it, there's no point to it.
Yes. It's like if you're not actually helping them, then why would like them getting this link and then forgetting about you is not doing anything. So I think making it simple and easily implementable is going to be where a really powerful lead magnet is.
Yeah. What was the thing I was going to say in that? Oh, I feel like as well with lead magnets, something that people don't consider is like, who is your ideal client and what's actually going to be relevant to them?
Yes.
So like you're saying, if it's like a 10-part audio series, but I even think too, like maybe it's a tradie. It's like, okay, well, what is actually going to be a lead magnet that's going to be of value to them? So it might not be an ebook or a guide on something. It might be something about like, you know, a quoting template or a costing template. Like you were saying, the content calendar. Like I think a lot of the time people just think a lead magnet is like a 5-page ebook where that doesn't have to be the case. It can just be something for free that's of value for them.
Yes.
That they would use.
And it's also, I think, if you think about the end goal of what you're actually offering, making sure it's relative to that. So I think what people kind of get wrong a lot with lead magnets is they think of this like lead magnet that might be exciting for their business or even potentially one of their ideal buyers, but then the conversion journey is getting them to this course or whatever it may be that's not actually relative to that lead magnet. And there's a disconnect in that conversion journey because you're then nurturing them in that funnel and making sure that they go from lead magnet into at minimum like a 7-part email series. But then does that lead magnet actually correlate with your offer? So I think if you're trying to think of a lead magnet, go to what you're actually offering, who the ideal buyer is for that specific offer, not just like your business as a whole. And then what is one step you can give them that makes sense so that they implement that. But then they're like, oh, I want a little bit more. So then they obviously are interested in what you're offering. So I think working backwards always and not just going straight to, I think what people do really well is they have a million different ideas, but they haven't actually started at the foundation and where they needed to start to work backwards to figure out what's relative there. So I think I always recommend starting there and then, working backwards.
Would you say for people listening, let's just say that they have like a course or a service, maybe it's a one-off call or something along those lines, and let's just say the value of it's around about $500. So they've gone from something free to $500. Would you recommend actually having something that's still, because again, what we're speaking about at the start of like once they've purchased, they're more likely to purchase. Would you recommend having something that is more low ticket to then actually be like, okay, cool, this is one step and then go? What do you feel like people maybe miss in thinking that, I've got like a bunch of signups from this freebie, why aren't they converting? But there might be a disconnect from a pricing perspective.
Absolutely. I think, I actually have a bit of a controversial, it's not controversial, but a different take on this. I think whatever strategy you choose can work really well. I think it's the actual execution that doesn't work well. So I think, I have a hair on my face. That's really annoying me. I think you can make either strategy work. You could have a freebie and then convert people into a higher ticket, say it's $300 or $500 offer. But it's actually how you're executing that middle ground. Mm-hmm. So I think it depends on what you have set up. But I think if you think of people who are going into a free offer versus someone who's going into a $500 offer, they can be very different buyers. So you can always have a middle step in there. But what a lot of people do is they have all these different steps, but then they don't actually have the structure set up to take people from freebie to low ticket to mid ticket to high ticket. And then they're wondering why it's not working with all the offers. So I think making sure that whatever you decide to do, whether it's straight from freebie into higher ticket or whether it's from lower ticket into higher ticket, whatever you want to do, actually have the conversion journey set up. So you're understanding where the customer currently is, where they're going, how you're nurturing them, and how you're showing that this offer is actually worth it for them, rather than just kind of choosing a strategy and not executing it and then wondering what happened.
Yeah. And I think as well, a huge mistake I made early days in business was I almost saw like the price of what someone was spending was like where they were at in their buyer's journey. So it was literally like freebie was like for the ultimate beginner. And then like this thing was like the next step up.
Yeah.
But then that's where there was a disconnect because it's like, well, no wonder all the people that are getting this freebie don't even have the budget or, aren't even in the space or appreciate the value of the thing that you're trying to sell here and the transformation that you're trying to make happen here.
Yeah.
So that was the other thing as well for me that you can still make a freebie that's relative to someone that's making multi-six figures a year.
Yeah.
It just needs to make sense.
Yes. And I think also it depends on, I think I really have started to learn this in the last year because I've been doing a lot of, review on what works in terms of like how much you're giving for free and then what's making them want more. So I think if your lead magnet kind of covers all the bases and doesn't leave them wanting more, then they're not going to convert because they're like, well, I've got everything that I need in this freebie. But if your freebie is kind of like as I was saying, making them more problem aware, but they're learning more, but they still don't feel like they have everything, they're more likely to convert. So I think it's just being really strategic with what you're offering them and what's involved in that freebie offer. And if that's actually leaving them with the desire to want more, or whether it's kind of just solving their problem and then they're moving on.
Yeah.
So I think, just being a bit more strategic with that and not just like creating a freebie just to create a freebie, but what's kind of the first step in that process.
Love. I didn't know I'd go so deep into freebies with you, but I'm sad. I'd love to know as well with like conversion rates. I feel like that's one thing when I'll like audit with clients and they're like, yeah, it's just like my conversion rates are really shit from like how many people downloaded to, the actual, but I'm like, no, they're not meant to be like 50%.
No, it's like I think 20 to 30% is industry standard.
Yeah. I'll even see sometimes, depending on what it is, like if it's paid, like on a paid sales page, it's like 3 to 5%.
Yes.
Industry standard. But being able to kind of move them through. So I love having that kind of number for people. What other metrics would you look at for performance? Because like you were saying, you were diving into understanding like, fuck, are we given too much value? Like what's the thing? What are some kind of metrics or things people can look at to maybe audit their own funnel?
So I think this depends based off if you're a service provider or like an e-commerce brand or what you're kind of doing there. But the things that I always look at is number one, how many leads you're getting. So whether you're basing that off web traffic or actual like leads coming into your system, how many you're getting there. Because if that's kind of like your block and you're not getting any leads or any traffic on your website, you know that it's your socials or top of funnel content that's not really landing. So I think starting there and then actually looking at how many people are converting from that, I think that also gives a really good estimate. Say you have a launch coming up and you have a goal of getting 100 people in and you're kind of just like, okay, let's do all our posts and do all our emails, but you're not working backwards and being like, okay, well, I want to have 100 people in. Say I have a conversion of like 10 people come in. Sorry, I'll start that again. I did the wrong maths. Say you in the past have had 1,000 leads and 100 people have converted. You know that you need to get 1,000 leads in. So what are you actually doing to get that 1,000 leads in? Rather than just being like, oh yeah, I want to get 100 people in and not working backwards. So I think understanding each point of your like marketing strategy as a whole and really understanding how people are coming in and then how many of those people are converting. And then also what the average order value is from each consumer. Because I think a lot of businesses have revenue goals, but they don't work backwards and figure out how much revenue they need from each customer. So if you can kind of understand how many leads are coming in, how many of those customers are converting, and then how much on average those customers are spending, you'll be able to have a revenue goal and kind of work backwards from there rather than just being like, I really want to make 20K in a month and just kind of posting and going hard, but you're not really understanding breaking that down and what that actually looks like across your marketing strategy.
I think, in service as well, people almost make it an elusive, like non-physical thing where it's like, well, if that I was selling a candle and my candles are $20 and I want to make 20K a month, we're looking at, okay, well, how many candles do I need to sell?
Yes.
So being able to have that. And I think working backwards, because business, it just is a numbers game in that aspect. And you have to be able to reverse engineer, where I think a lot of people are like, I'm going to launch this thing. And it's like, they don't have a target of how many people they want to get in, whether it be fear of like, oh, well, fuck, like the launch flopped based on my goals. But it's like, that's actually how you can have those tangible metrics to measure that actually gives you, more context to what's working in the strategy and what's not. Because you might have a video that goes viral in the launch, but then if it's not getting the signups and the leads coming into your funnel, then that also isn't supportive either.
Yeah. Well, I think I've seen so many business owners kind of have these goals for launch. They launch and then they're just doing all their posts, they're doing all their emails, and they're not actually tracking their data during the launch as well. So they're not pivoting. They're kind of just setting their strategy, forgetting, and then getting to the end of the launch and being like, oh, I didn't hit my goal. Rather than like having the goal, having the strategy set, but then looking at what that strategy is doing, how many people are coming in, and looking at, okay, do we need to pivot our social strategy? Is it our conversion strategy? Is it our nurture strategy? What's actually like breaking down? So if you can get to know your numbers and understand where that kind of all sits in your data and your metrics, you're going to have a way more successful launch because you can actually pivot as you're going, not just kind of setting a strategy you think is going to work and then it's not. And then you're just disappointed with the result. So really understanding that along the journey as well.
I think that's a huge piece with strategy. And I know there's like so many misconceptions, especially when I see in like the online space, and it's like, you don't need a strategy, you just need to be this. And I want to go into that conversation because I feel like you've got like both sides in terms of like the spirituality side with Rise and Conquer, but then also like the strategy side. I'm like, you actually need both. But yeah, I think a lot of people think that a strategy is like something that takes you out of your zone of genius, or it's just like it's copy and paste. And it's like, no, you have to be able to pivot and adjust. And I think people get really surprised when I like give content advice and guidance. I'm like, no, I'm not giving you this plan for 12 weeks. You have to be able to look at the data, because we might be able to pick up on an opportunity 10 days in and then pivot and adjust.
Yeah.
One question I had for you is, let's just say we've got someone listening to this that's maybe a service provider, but it's like more in like the one-to-one capacity, and they're wanting to really build up their client base. A lot of the time when the clients come in and they're like, so I've got this freebie, and I'm like, okay, cool. And how many people have downloaded it? 4. Okay. Probably not the best use of your time right now. What would you kind of recommend to someone that's wanting to build up their services in a one-on-one capacity that can kind of act in the same position as a freebie? Is it more a thing of we need to get more people signed up, in your opinion? Or is it maybe doing the unscalable thing for right now as you are in that build phase?
I think the best thing you can do for one-on-one is start focusing on how you're building your community and how you're kind of getting people into your world that service is going to be relative to. So I think there's a few parts to that, and having a lead magnet is great. But if you haven't really had much signups, maybe reviewing that and being like, okay, maybe this isn't the best freebie I could have. Yeah. But I think if you're kind of focusing on creating authority and creating trust, so building your audience alongside nurturing your audience and making sure that you kind of have everything set up for that framework. So what do you have set up for the top of funnel to get people onto the leads, but then what you actually have set up for the nurture journey? Because I think especially with service-based, it's a very different conversion journey to, say, an e-com brand, because the conversion journey usually is about, it can take months for someone to finally be like, okay, I trust you enough. Now I want to work with you. Whereas with e-com, it can take a couple of weeks, or like honestly with paid ads at the moment, you can kind of get them straight away. So I think just understanding that it is a longer game with service-based, and typically you won't really have someone just discovering you, typically, because that can happen, and being like, I want to work with you. They're usually watching on the sidelines. So I think also the biggest thing for building out one-on-ones is looking at, and I think a lot of people go to, I just want a bigger audience, or I just want more followers, but not actually looking at, okay, well, I have this amount of followers. How am I actually creating connection with them? Why are they following me? How can I work with them? And reaching, even like DMing them or focusing on that community rather than just being like, I just want new people to see me and discover me. Because often you have all the people that you need following you to get to the revenue goal that you have, but people are so focused on growing and eyes and, vanity metrics almost, without just looking at, okay, well, what my current community is doing, how can I provide value for them? What are they needing at the moment? And actually having that two-way communication. And I think one of the biggest things that people miss is they focus on what they think they need to do instead of getting data off what their community actually wants. And usually there's a mismatch with that. One of the best things that you can do is actually speak to your community and understand where they currently are, because especially if you're a service provider, from your perspective, but it's usually, 10, 20 steps ahead of where your community actually is. And you're so in the industry that you forget what it was like to be where they are.
Yeah.
So I think having a conversation with them and actually understanding what your community needs and who those people are that follow you or are in your community or in your network, whatever it may be, and having that conversation to understand like where that mismatch is.
Yeah, that market research piece is so huge for people. And whether it's, conversations in the DMs, whether it's getting people on calls. I was saying that to a client the other day. She's a naturopath starting her business. And I'm like, just spend time. Like, it's not the most scalable thing right now, but rather than it being a discovery call in the sense of that they're ready to work with you? Can it just be a call where you're actually just like auditing why they have the symptoms that they have? And yes, that's more manual than, you know, a freebie, and you could potentially put it in a freebie right now, but like just do that so you deeply understand, and then your marketing can be so much more specific as well.
100%. I think also with how many people have businesses and everything these days, a lot of people forget what it actually takes to kind of grow that audience, and they're posting all the time or doing their marketing and they're like, why is this not working? But it really is like at the start, you need to get on calls and have conversations and be in your DMs and really nurture that community in order to create that trust and authority. So if you're just kind of going out on your own or just starting your business, making sure you're doing the things to create a really strong community. Like I even remember back in the day with Rise and Conquer, how like that was just all we focused on was the experience of like how we're actually speaking to our community. And, you know, G was across all of the DMs and in the comms and like really making sure that the community was taken care of. And I think if you're kind of just working on your, I guess, marketing output without actually focusing on the community, that's why you're probably seeing that disconnect with results.
Yeah. And this is like such a harsh way of putting it, but it's like entitlement, right? And I think a lot of people, it's like, yeah, you can look and be like, oh, well, let's just take Georgie as an example. Like, well, she's got the audience and she's got this thing and like, you know, she's just got the visibility and like insert the thing as to why she has a result, but you don't.
Yes.
But it's like, no, well, she's been in DMs and she's been intentionally building and she's been creating for years when there was no evidence of results. And I was speaking about that with Christina as well with like building personal brand. I think that's so massive for people of like, you have to do what other people aren't willing to do, especially as you're getting your foot in the door, like especially as you're in those first few years. And I'm still willing to do things like, oh my God, yes, I could charge more, but like, no, because I'm willing to build experience in things. So I think it's looking at like what are people at your level at wherever that is in your journey, like what are they doing and what can you do differently, whether it's in marketing, the service, whatever it might be.
Yeah. And I think just focusing on, you know, even the clients that you do have, say you have 2 clients at the moment, like how is that experience and how are you getting results for them? Because the best marketing strategy is your social proof and the people that are already working with you, because if they're having an amazing experience, they're going to then have conversations with people and then their network might become a part of your network. So I think a lot of the time people focus their wrong energy in their marketing strategy and they're just focusing on growth on socials rather than who's already in their current community or their current clients, and how can I get a good result for them so that I can have more powerful marketing and more authority in the space.
I love that because I think a lot of the time, and I've been there where you're like, oh, I've only got X amount of clients, or insert the thing, and it's like, oh, but you know, this person has double the amount, or they're signing clients, whatever, like coming back into what do I have and like how can I just, you know, look after my existing clients and get them the best result.
Yes.
That was something I really focused on like coming up to 2 years ago now, but like when I took like a massive pivot in my business, it was just like, how can I just focus on getting a good fucking result and like, yeah, not worrying about what I'm charging, not worrying about being super profitable. Like how can I focus on that? And that's the thing even now still that like, yeah, it's all social proof and word of mouth. Like that's the biggest thing.
100%. Because it's like, how are you going to actually show the value in it if you haven't given that value to anyone else or you haven't got it for yourself? So I think the best thing you can do for service-based is either be the testimonial or get the testimonials.
Yeah. And it's like, don't worry about your website landing page right now.
Yes.
Like let's just focus on results and client experience, which I love. And I feel like it's the unspoken piece of marketing as well. Not that it's like super unspoken, but I think a lot of the time we just think, okay, social media strategy, what's my funnel, what's a lead magnet versus what's the service that's happening inside.
Yes. Or even let's do a rebrand.
We've done it 5 times. We don't need to rebrand.
Yeah. It's just like focus on the delivery and then the rest will come.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I'd love to kind of finish off with being that kind of conversation around, like, I feel like in the space, it's been such a debate, if you will, when people are like, I feel like the real spiritual kind of business mentors, it's all about like, you know, it's who you are, it's your identity, it's this. And then people that are like really strategic and it's like, you don't need your fucking rose quartz crystals. Like that's not going to be the thing that makes your launch perform. And I'm very much of the opinion, like, I'm like, business, it is a very tangible thing, and like you need the strategy, but if you also can't be someone that can execute the strategy, that's also a problem. So being that you've come from also working with a founder that is very the both, I would say, especially in, you know, she has a manifestation course and, you know, when it comes to like money and manifesting and like really blending the two together, what do you feel for anyone listening to this would be your advice or what to focus on if that they feel kind of stuck and they're like, is it a strategy thing? Is it a mindset or energy thing? What would be kind of your advice in like being able to identify what the problem is for them? Again, a loaded question from me.
Do you have 5 hours? So I think the biggest thing, what I always focus on is, first of all, understanding your numbers and understanding your data, because if you haven't first looked there, you're basically leading blind. So the biggest thing is understanding that you actually are across your strategy, you're across your numbers. You know, if you go look at your data today, you understand what part of your marketing strategy is not being executed correctly. That would be the biggest thing. And it's kind of where I start with all of my clients, is doing a deep dive and showing them the actual leaks in their business and where things aren't the dog barking. Things aren't working in their strategy. But then I think you are the thing in your business that's different to any other business, and no one can replicate you. They can replicate a business, but they can't replicate you. So I think the biggest thing with strategy is having the numbers, making that executive decision, but then doing it in your own way and following your intuition there. I feel like, you know, if it's the strategy or your own mindset, limiting beliefs, whatever it is, because you will have all the numbers, but then something will keep coming up to impact the strategy or stop you from executing the strategy. So whether that's procrastination or wanting to change the strategy all the time or going off like gut feelings or whatever it may be, but you have the numbers right there, you kind of know that that's a mindset thing. So I think it's so powerful to work on both your mindset and your strategy, and without either one, you can't really pull off a really good business. So I know for me, I've always focused on strategy, but then I've also worked on the human behind the brand, because if your mindset is your biggest block, it's always going to be your ceiling. So if you have, you know, struggles with visibility, or you're constantly procrastinating or whatever it may be, that's always going to block even the smartest of strategies. So I think understanding both and being able to recognize when one is getting in the way is going to be like a superpower in business.
Yeah, I love the way that you positioned that. And it's almost that like energy of when you think it's a strategy thing, it's probably a mindset thing, and vice versa, because it's like, oh, the strategy needs to change. It's like, no, you're actually just doubting yourself, or like you're procrastinating. So I love that so much, because I find that a lot with clients, being that I'm so heavy in like the strategy side of things, and a lot of people come to me for that. I'm like, this isn't a strategy thing. Like we implemented, like 3 days ago, you know what I mean? But it's like you have, you know, whether it's assumptions of your audience that they just don't have the money, or it's a visibility thing and you don't want to be seen. Like it's so important to do the both. And that's where you're going to be really unstoppable in like your marketing and business growth.
100%. I think also what's really powerful, and I'm sure this would be such an amazing thing for your clients as well, is having someone outside of your business to actually look at the data, because the amount of times that I've actually gone through the data with founders and they may have looked at it, but they still have their emotion, and it's an emotionally loaded decision because their business is everything to them. I know I've even worked with a brand that's, I think, 8 years old, multi-7-figure brand, and I showed them, they thought something was their best seller for years. And then I actually went through their entire data and found their best sellers, and they thought that was their worst sellers just based off feelings. Wow. And it's like, if you don't actually understand how to look at your data, or have someone kind of outside of your business that doesn't have that emotional loading behind them, it can be such a block for you, because you're kind of always leading business decisions based off emotion, and that will kind of usually lead you astray.
Yeah. I love that, and such a good point to finish on. Yeah. I love it so much. If people want more of you,
Yeah.
Because your content is also incredible.
Thank you.
Where can they find you?
So Instagram is Posy Social, Posy Social. It was so funny the other day. I was trying to spell out my email to someone and I spelled out social and I was like, I don't know why I just spelled that.
In case you needed a spelling.
I'm sure you know. She was looking at me like, yep. So I'm sure you guys know how to spell social.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and share your wisdom and knowledge in, what was it, 50 minutes? Oh my gosh.
Wow, that went so fast.
So fast. I'm always so mindful of time. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I could just ask 1,000,001 questions, but maybe we'll have to come back for a part 2.
Yeah.
But if there's any questions, pop them in the questions, DM, whatever it might be, so we can know if there's a little part 2er. Because I feel like you have so much to share. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I love that.
And that's another episode of Simply Business. I would love for you to rate this podcast, comment below if you have any feedback, DM me on Instagram, and even better, share it with your friends, family, or share on Instagram. See you in the next episode.